Welcome back once again to the Imaginary Gallery. It's TJ, your host, and we are on the last of the types of abusive people from the same book, Lundy Bancroft's. Why does he do that inside the minds of angry and controlling men, women, and children? The 10th one is called the mentally ill or addicted abuser. This final category is not actually separate from all the others. An abusive person of any of the previous styles can also have psychiatric and or substance abuse problems, although the majority do not. Even when mental illness or addiction is a factor, it is not the cause of the abusive behavior of the partner, but it can contribute to the severity of the problem and his or her reluctance to change. When these additional problems are present, it's very important to be aware of the following points. Number one, certain mental illnesses can increase the chance that an abusive person will become dangerous and use physical violence. These include paranoia, severe depression, delusions or hallucinations, which is psychosis, obsessive-compulsive disorder, and antisocial personality disorder. These conditions also make it next to impossible for an abusive person to change, at least until the mental illness has been brought under control through therapy and or medication, which can take years. Even if the mental illness is properly treated, the abusiveness will not necessarily change. Number two, an abusive person's reactions to going on or off of their medications are very unpredictable. A partner of such a person should take extra precautions for his or her safety at such a time. Abusive people tend to go off medication before long. Lundy Bancroft has had very few clients who were ever consistent and responsible about taking their medications for a long-term period. They do not like the side effects. They're too selfish to care about the implications it may have on someone else, their kids, their partners. Number three is the potential danger of a mentally ill abuser has to be assessed by looking at the severity of the psychiatric symptoms in combination with the severity of the abusive characteristics. Looking at the psychiatric symptoms alone can lead to understanding how dangerous this person is. Number four, antisocial personality disorder, ASPD, is present in only a small percentage of abusive people, but can be very important. Those who suffer from this condition do not have a conscience, and they are repeatedly involved in behaviors that are harmful to others. Now he gives us some signs of this condition, which would include this person started doing illegal things when it was a teenager or younger. It has a dishonest or aggressive behavior that involves situations unrelated to the partner, rather than being restricted to him or her. It periodically gets into trouble at the workplace or in other contexts for doing illegal things, such as stealing, violence, threatening, or refusing to follow orders, and is likely to have a considerable criminal record by about the age of 30, though the offenses may be minor ones. It may be severely or chronically irresponsible in a way that disrupts the lives of other people or creates a dangerous situation, and it tends to cheat on its partners a lot, turns them against each other, and maintains shallow relationships with them. The psychopathic person's physical violence is not necessarily severe, contrary to the popular image, but it may be very dangerous regardless. Antisocial personality disorder is very difficult to change through therapy, and there's no effective medication for treating it. It's very compatible, though, with abusiveness towards partners. Number five, those who suffer from narcissistic personality disorder have a highly distorted self-image. They are unable to accept that they might have a fault here or there, and therefore they're unable to imagine how other people could actually perceive them. This condition's highly comparable with abusiveness, though it's present in only a small percentage of abusive people. Oh, really? Clues to the presence of this disorder include the partner's self-centeredness is very severe, and it carries into situations outside of your relationship. It seems to relate everything back to itself, and it's outraged whenever anybody gives even the slightest criticism of it. and is incapable of considering that he or she could ever be anything other than loving and kind and generous. This disorder is highly resistant to therapy and is not treatable with medication. The abusive person with this disorder is not able to change substantially through an abusive program either, although it sometimes makes some minor improvements. Number 6, many abusive people who are not mentally ill want their partners to think that they are, in order to avoid responsibility for their attitudes and behavior. And I've seen that before, where someone will give you a diagnosis, oh, I have this disorder, they'll say it, and I think they believe that gives them like a free pass. So when you find out they have a different life on the side, and you confront them, they'll be able to say, oh, well, I have such and such disorder, it's not my fault. How dare you be so insensitive to me? Pity plays. Substance abuse, like mental illness, does not cause partner abuse, but it can increase the risk of violence. Like the mentally ill abusive person, the addicted abuser doesn't change unless it deals with the addiction. And even then, it's only a first step. The attitudes during the mentally ill or addicted batterer are the same as those of other abusive people and will likely follow the pattern of one of the 9 styles before this one. In addition, the following attitudes tend to be present, which leads us to inside the box.
I'm not responsible for my actions because of my psychological or substance abuse problems.
If you challenge me about my abusiveness, you're being mean to me. Considering these other problems I have, it also shows that you don't understand my other problems.
I'm not abusive. I'm just alcoholic, drug addicted, manic depressive, adult child of alcoholic,
or whatever condition may be.
If you challenge me, it will trigger my addiction or mental illness, and you'll be responsible for whatever I do.
Now, although Bancroft has focused on the emotionally abusive styles of these different kinds of abusive people, any one of them may use physical violence, including sexual assault. Although the terrorist and the drill sergeant are especially likely to become dangerous, they are not the only ones who may do so. Many abusive people occasionally use physical violence or threats as a way to intimidate when they feel like their power or control is disappearing. Violence for them is kind of a trump card, no pun intended, they use when their normal patterns of psychological abuse are not getting them the degree of control that they feel entitled to. Key points to remember. Tremendous variation exists among the abusive styles. Your abusive partner may be a type that this author hasn't encountered yet, but that doesn't mean it's any less real. Many people are a mixture of different aspects. An abusive person may change so much from day to day that it couldn't belong to any of these types. This style of abusive person is so unpredictable that the partner can never make sense out of what he or she's living with. And finally, an abusive person of any type can have days when it turns loving, attentive, and thoughtful. At these times, you may feel that the problem's gone away finally, and that the relationship will return to the rosy, love-bombing beginning. However, abuse always comes back eventually, unless the abusive person has taken the time to deal with his or her abusiveness.
Look, I don't know what's wrong with you people. Why do you give TJ so much attention? He doesn't have a clue about what he's talking about. You need to listen to me, because I am the Narcopath. I realize I am quite beautiful, and you've never seen anyone just like me, but I'm here to tell you a few pointers. First off, my favorite game with you people is called projection. For example, when I first met you and we started to hang out, you were brand new to text messaging. So those nights we were out together, and you sent me a text that said, I'm in the bathroom, or whatever you said. I saw you come out of the bathroom and I said, I saw you. That message you sent to me was very short. you were still texting afterwards. That means that you texted somebody else and then deleted it.
When I did that, I was actually doing what the psychological community calls projection. I know that you were brand new to text messaging, so you didn't even have a clue how to even send a single text message, but
I wanted to project onto you, so I made the false accusation that you had texted some other beauty that was prettier than me, which is impossible. I mean, look at my features. I'm Reptilian! Ah! But anyway, you fell for it and felt the need to defend yourself, that you weren't doing anything wrong. You don't even know how to text me, for all that matters. And I knew this, but I had to try to cover up my own evil behaviors. Projection is my life.
do you heal me? Do you care? I told you I ain't gonna shapeshift. You can try all you want, but it ain't gonna work, because I got my act together. I ain't gonna shapeshift. Nice try.